We can use the half double crochet stitch to make a bow to finish off our headband that we did with the single crochet. I made a gather for shaping, and a bow will help to have the same effect, particularly if it's gathered with a band here. Let's get started on a bow to embellish our single crochet headband. For the bow, I'm going to start with the slip knot. For a slip knot, I make a loop and then I pull up the working yarn or the yarn from the skein, and I have the loop that I can put on my hook. And you know you've done it correctly if you can loosen and tighten your slip knot. Now begin your bow with a chain stitch, and to do the chain stitch, grab your working yarn. I call the yarn at the end here the tail, and the working yarn comes out of your skein of yarn, and you grab your working yarn and pull it through the loop on your hook, and that's your chain stitch. And you want to be certain to do it very loosely to keep an even gauge and tension throughout your project. I've crocheted 15 chains. For half double crochet, I'm going to come over and go into the second chain from the hook, and as I go along the chain row, I'm going to be very careful not to twist that chain in this first row and try to keep our chain row straight. So skip one. I'm going to do a yarn over, which wraps the yarn around the hook, and then I'm going to go down into my chain and grab the yarn and pull up a loop. This gives me 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to grab the yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook, and that is the half double crochet stitch. I'll do that again. Yarn over, go down into the next chain, being careful not to twist the chain row. I'm going to go into the chain and pull up my yarn, and now there are 3 loops on the hook. For half double crochet, I yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. We'll do that again. Yarn over, go into the next chain, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Now I'm going to go across into each chain and do a half double crochet into each chain all the way across. For the next row, I'm going to chain 2 and turn. And this raises the yarn to the correct height for this row to keep the edges even. Now begin the next row of a half double crochet in both the front and the back loop of the stitch below. And do that going all the way across. Now I've come all the way across to the end of the row, and one way to check to make sure you're doing all of your stitches is to count them. And there will be 14 stitches in each row. So I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to continue doing 14 half double crochets in each stitch across until I have completed 6 rows. Try to keep an even tension, meaning tightness, as you go across. And then notice how the hook and the stitch, which is slightly taller than our single crochet, and yarn all contribute to the gauge, which is the measurements, how many stitches per inch, both in rows going up and in stitches going across. I'm going to continue to half double crochet in each of the 14 stitches across. I'm going to do that for all 6 rows, being very careful to chain 2 and turn at the end of every row. It's helpful to do a small swatch before you start using the hook and the yarn you're going to use, so you will have a better idea of how your final piece will measure. Reach the end of the row, so I'm going to chain 2 and turn, and then I will half double crochet into each of the 14 stitches across again for this row. And I'm going to continue to repeat that until I have achieved the height I desire, which will be 6 rows for this particular piece. Here's the completed bow following 6 rows of half double crochets with 14 stitches across. So I'm going to finish off, and then to achieve our bow shape I need to create a gather, and that can be done by taking a yarn needle and then gathering and running the thread through together to create our bow shape. Another way to do this is to create a small band that will go around the headband and the bow. And gather it that way. You could also use a yarn needle to stitch it down after you wrap it with a small band.